That was painful to lose again to the Bulls, which marks the third time that we lost to the Bulls. So we lost to the Bulls and the Hornets both 3 times this year. And we only have 19 losses. So out of the 19, 6 have come against teams that are really right with us in the standings. But, I mean, they're both also garbage teams. To think if you could even win one game against each of those teams right now, and then, you'd be 1-2 against each instead of 11 and 19, the Pistons would be at 13 and 17, which that would sit them right in the that have them in the A seed right now. And then God forbid you win 2 games out of 3 against one of those trash teams. But it is what it is. Tonight, two teams played fairly even. Actually, there are a couple weird things on the box score, but if you just look at it total, a couple things really jump out. And I know the box score doesn't always tell the story, but for this game in particular, if you looked at it, you'd be able to kind of find out right exactly where the Pistons went wrong and where the Bulls went right, and why the game just shifted and turned out the way that it did. So both teams hit 40 field goals. The Bulls, they did hit 2 more 3-pointers, which helped them. But the biggest thing that aided the Bulls in this victory and really hurt the Pistons was the Bulls went to the free throw line twice as many times as the Pistons did, and both the teams made their free throws count when they were there. The Pistons went to the line 12 times, and they did hit 11 of them. So it's excellent job of converting on the free throws. However, the Pistons also fouled the Bulls. Let's see, they had 20 fouls. To the Bulls 13, which sent the Bulls to the free throw line 25 times, and they made 21 free throws, which is 10 more than the Pistons, and the Bulls ended up winning by 12. So you do, that easy math right there. They got 10 points. They got 10 more points just from the free throw line alone, and then they ended up winning by 12. So in a nutshell, that was really the difference because, some of the other stats as you go down actually favor the Pistons. The Bulls turned the ball over 5 more times than the Pistons did. And the Pistons moved the ball better. They did have more assists, but part of that can be attributed to as well the Bulls, getting fouled on their shots, and then obviously you're not going to make that shot, so you don't get the count for the assist, even if the ball, moved well. But in a game without Blake Griffin and a Blake without Derrick Rose, the Pistons really did struggle to find some offense. I know Markieff Morris, he gave his best effort. And he was really hot from 3-point range, but other than that, his total shots, they weren't really falling. He was only 8 of 19, but 7 or 12 from 3. So when you needed a bucket, he's the guy you went to. He led the team tonight with 23 points. Drummond, obviously not the same type of thing in terms of his 3-point shooting, but he did go 8 of 17, which just around 50%, 19 points, 14 rebounds. And then very active on the defensive end, 5 steals, 2 blocks. And he chipped in 3 assists. Tony Snell, it seems like Tony Snell has to have some sky-high 3-point percentage because he's 3 for 3 from 3 tonight. And I can't recall, I'm sure it's happened, but I don't really recall a game where Tony Snell's 1 of 7 or 1 of 8 from 3-point range, like Steve Mihailuk was tonight, who's essentially a non-factor, which is kind of a bummer because I know I'll just speak for myself. Actually, I don't know that a lot of fans have really gotten behind the Svi Mihailuk train. But to me, and just watching the team, he's been playing well, and he's somebody whose game I really like to watch. But he was 0 of 5 tonight from 3 and 1 of 7 overall. So, it's kind of a really back down to earth game and, more indicative of probably the NBA player that he is, as opposed to the games where he's, running around and hitting everything. Albert said that he swapped back and forth between the Pistons and the Red Wings game, and the Red Wings lost too. I didn't know that, but I could have guessed because they're not very good. Paul says, why watch at this point? Jeff, why was Blake not playing? Blake was not playing because of knee soreness, I think. He's held out, I think, the prior 2 games before this. And he's just, it really seems like he's breaking down already. And at this point of the year, I still don't know if it's Dwayne Casey just trying to rest him because, we are over a quarter away through the season now. We know we've hit 30 games, so we're pretty close to the halfway point. And obviously Blake has not played that much, but the Pistons also aren't that far out of the playoffs. So I don't really know how much of it is Blake's actually hurt and how much of it is Blake's just, he's a little hurt. He's a little tender right now, but they're just trying to save him for the end of the year. And as long as they're not falling, 5 or 6 games out of the playoff spot, this is kind of something that they'll continue to monitor. Matthew says Pistons cannot string together more than one win in a row. They cannot, but they can string together a whole bunch of losses in a row. And, again, tonight, of course, without Blake and without Derrick Rose, it's a game that because it was against the Bulls, you kind of can expect, to the team to put out a better effort. But, you saw the offensive really deficiencies that they were having without those two guys. Bruce Brown playing 33 minutes, getting the start at point guard and only putting up 4 points, 4 assists, and 4 turnovers, of course, doesn't help you. We already talked about how bad Shvee was tonight. And then Tim Frazier played 28 minutes, and it was pretty unexpected. He was going to need to step up, obviously, without Derrick Rose in the lineup, and he did that, so you like to see that. It's just, kind of sad that it came in a losing effort. But, shout out to Tim Frazier tonight, who did go 5 of 6 and had 13 points to go along with 9 assists. But, other than those few guys, nobody else really played well on the team. And, again, when you're playing defense and you're only fouling and sending the Bulls to the line, it's, of course, going to be tough to win, especially when you don't have guys that can go get you, your main guys that can go get you a bucket. And I know Blake hasn't played not even great, really not even good this year, because he's been, struggling to come back from the injury. But, in a close game, that's still the guy that you're going to go to. And as we've seen in the past couple weeks, Derrick Rose has really been the guy that they've been going to down the stretch. And, a lot of those times he's able to come through for them. But tonight, without both of the players and weapons that you want to go get you a bucket, you're really shorthanded. And the Pistons just weren't able to overcome that tonight. Season series, the Pistons dropped 3. Yeah, again, that's the frustrating thing, and we talked about it before. Probably before most of you hopped on. But the Pistons have 3 losses to the Bulls and 3 losses to the Hornets, and they have 19 losses total. So 6 losses out of your 19, basically a third of your losses have come against really, really bad competition, and they're teams that you're fighting with the A spot for. Matthew says, why don't we play the draft picks that we got? So we played. Well, Jordan Bowen isn't called up. He's still down in Grand Rapids, but Sekou was active tonight, and he just didn't end up playing. But they're trying to bring those guys along slowly, which is why they're not getting any playing time. They just don't think they're ready. And the Pistons are a team that want to they want to make the playoffs, and they want to win as many games possibly as they can. They're not a team that's going to be in full tank mode. They're not they're not even a team like the Bulls who are playing a lot of the young guys that they have to develop them for the future. They're trying to win now, and as much promise as somebody like Sekou may have, or Jordan Bowen, depending on obviously if you like him or not. Even just how much promise they have, they're not really going to help you on the court right now. Now, if the Pistons do get into a situation where they get a bunch of games out of the playoff spot, and then, they decide to sell at the deadline and really just take what they can get for maybe Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, all these guys that you potentially want to trade and potentially could be tradable, then I think that's when you would obviously see a kick up in the younger guys' playing time. But right now, I wouldn't expect that to happen at all. And I also think, if you're trying to win, that's the right move, because down in Grand Rapids and in the G League, Sekou's really been kind of tearing it up. So he's been able to develop down there and get a lot of playing time. Of course, it's not against the NBA competition, but he's developing his game. He's still working with the coaches that they have down there, and they do run the same system and same style of play that the Pistons run. So he's getting work, in the offensive and the defensive schemes. It's just really a matter of time before he's able to contribute that at the NBA level. Really quick, while we have a break in the moment here, if you guys aren't familiar with me, first of all, thank you for clicking. But I am with the Sports Carnage podcast that is brought to you here by Detroit Sports Nation, this lovely page that we're all on right now. And we just dropped a new podcast, our College Football Bowl Spectacular, on Thursday. So go listen to that if you haven't. Other than that, we drop our podcast every Thursday. So, go to the link during the video and then come back, or after the video or whatever. Maybe even on your smartphone as you're watching on your computer and you got your phone with you, just like me. But go ahead, go to our Facebook page. Make sure you like it, you share it, and then as you listen to the podcast and as we drop them, just make sure you're reviewing and rating our podcast to let you know what you think, what can we be doing better, what we do really well. But any feedback that you guys have for us is very much appreciated in that aspect of it. It's more of that, and then we do these videos all the time. It could be your first, or it could be your regular, like some of the guys I've seen here. Shout out to Albert Lou, who's in pretty much all of these videos in the comments I see. And then Jim Wells is usually here, but maybe Jim's at a Christmas party. That's why I have the sweater on. Came home from a family Christmas party, except I didn't come home that long ago. Or I came home kind of that long ago, and I've just been too lazy to take it off. But it does have a dinosaur on it if you can't see it. Boom. Austin says, all I want for Christmas is better Detroit pro teams. I think we're all with you there. So Wojo and Bogey had a really good topic on 97.1. I think it was on Friday or Thursday. Friday. So yesterday, obviously. But it was in Detroit sports in the next decade, in the 2020s, is Detroit sports going to be better than the 2010s were to them? And I think it's a really interesting question. It's one that I wish, we would have came up with. But shout out to Bogey and Wojo. It's a really good question. And for the Pistons, if we're just going to keep it to the team we're discussing right now, I think the Pistons really can't have a worse decade because they only made the playoffs 2 times. But the Pistons should have a better run for, 2020 to 2029 than they've had in 2010 to 2019. The Tigers will probably be worse considering they made a World Series in that span. The Lions, they only have to make the playoffs. They made the playoffs 3 times in the 2010s, so you only have to make the playoffs 4 times, which doesn't seem like it's too much of a feat. But bringing back Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, certainly a rocky start in my eyes to kind of kicking all that off. But it's a really interesting question. But that's something that I think you'll hear a lot of, especially around the holidays and with the state of all of our professional teams is that they're all really bad. So you obviously want more wins. Newer management seems to be a theme with most of our teams, at least. New coaches, new GMs, new owners is what you hear a lot for. I mean, even all the teams. I think people want Illich to sell both the Tigers and the Wings. They want Martha obviously to sell the Lions, and then they want Goris to sell the Pistons. Albert tried to tune in when he's available. Very nice. I can't tune in. That's totally fine, Albert. And I know you're a real one, OG, day one. So I appreciate it. Well, yeah, man. I mean, I don't know how long Blake and Reggie are supposed to be out. I can actually go ahead and check that to right now. And then they did give an update on Reggie Jackson. They're hoping to bring him back by like Christmas time to New Year's. And that's something that I think really will boost the team up, because, and I've said this on videos before, so if I've repeated myself and you've listened, again, thank you for listening. But I do apologize that you're hearing the same kind of opinion or information. But, even when you're starting guys like Bruce Brown or Tim Frazier at point guard, there's no doubt that Reggie Jackson is a better option than either of them. You might think Derrick Rose is better than Reggie Jackson, and Derrick Rose has certainly played well this year. But if you have a Reggie Jackson 1-2 punch, is way better than a Derrick Rose and Bruce Brown, or Derrick Rose and Tim Frazier 1-2 punch. And that part of that is really kind of inarguable to me. Let's see here. Who has Derrick Rose? Oh, he does. That's the best part about fantasy basketball is whenever I need an injury update, I can just go look at the player, and ESPN has the write-ups here. So Rose will be rested. So Rose sat out tonight for rest. So the next game the Pistons play, I wouldn't expect Derrick Rose to be out of the lineup. He should be playing. And then as far as Blake Griffin goes, let me go over to Matt's team. Bob. And let's see how many games Blake has missed. So Blake's missed the last 2. He missed in Boston. He missed in Chicago. And then he missed the Washington game before he played against the Raptors. But Blake has been ruled out for Saturday's game. Griffin will miss his second consecutive game due to a knee injury. Yeah. So no word on Blake Griffin moving forward, but I would expect to see Derrick Rose back in the lineup. There are your live up to date injury updates. And then somebody tweeted out the other day. I don't know who it was, Rod Beard maybe. But basically that, again, Reggie Jackson was looking to come back sometime, like between Christmas and New Year's ish, or maybe that had just be reevaluated towards that time, and then we should at least get a time frame, which might let you and let the team maybe even adjust kind of their playoff expectations. Cheers, all the Detroit major sports wins or lose. I'm always there, no matter how bad they all are. Yeah, it's a curse, really. Kind of being born into, if you were born obviously into Detroit sports fandom, and you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, however old, unless you're like, to me, unless you're like a 10-year-old kid or something, you can't really change your allegiance. You can say, well, I'm going to be a Steelers fan and I'm going to buy Steelers gear now. But in my opinion, when that happens, if the Lions and the Steelers play each other, your heart's still rooting for the Lions. Even if you want to stop supporting them financially, you want to stop wearing their gear or whatever. If you just grown up a fan of them and basically you haven't quit now, you're probably kind of stuck to being a fan of them, just because the heart wants what the heart wants, as opposed to, if you're, again, 10 years old and then you really like Devin Bush or Juju Smith-Schuster or whoever, and then you're like, well, that's going to be my team because I like those players. And, you're never seeing the Lions do anything, so you don't have any connection to the Lions at all. It's probably a little bit easier to grow up a diehard Steelers fan then. But, of course, we don't have that luxury, because I don't expect that anybody watching me right now is under the age of like 18 maybe. And if you are, let us know. But again, I don't really think that's the case. But that is really what we have for you tonight. Again, a pretty disappointing loss by the Pistons. And well, my mouse isn't working, so I'll say whatever else. But disappointing loss by the Pistons. Again, if you guys haven't yet already, go check out our Sports Carnage podcast here on Facebook, that blue link right there. And then check us out on YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, Apple Podcast, Twitter. We're on anything you can look at on your phone. You can type in Sports Carnage, and then you should be able to see us. So go ahead, check us out on there. Let us know what you think. Again, like, review, subscribe, share the podcast. Get us some sponsors. We're working on Miller Lite right here. Hasn't worked yet. My phone's still dry. But prayers up to new sponsors in the New Year's. That's what we have for you guys tonight. If I don't see you before Christmas or the holidays, then happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Festivus, Hanukkah, whatever you guys are celebrating. I wish you a merry and a happy one, and have a good night. Where is that button? There it is.